And a good morning to all out there here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. How we doing this morning, folks? I hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning. As you can see, my t-shirt is ready for the conversation at hand. My t-shirt says Prowl, and it's got the Jaguars on it. Why? Because God is amazing, and he does cool things like this in my life all the time. Walking around the store years ago, and my Jaguars coverage is called On the Prowl, and I found a Jaguar shirt that literally says Prowl on it. So we are ready to go breaking down the Jaguar schedule today. But before we go there, we got a bunch of stuff to get into. Inside of the Heritage Hill Studios, you know what it is, folks. Heritage Hill is our exclusive studio partner, and you will find Heritage Hill Brew House out in Pompey in the rolling hills of Central and upstate New York. A fantastic venue, just an amazing place. The food is great. And by the way, folks, I didn't know this until Mother's Day. Their chocolate chips are uncanny. Absolutely incredible. And I say uncanny because the X-Men are uncanny, and the Jaguars did a little spin on the X-Men for their schedule release. And then you can go to Heritage Hill North, their newest location that opened in its grand opening on May 1st, which is also the first day of our partnership. Got to be at a ribbon cutting of a business for the first time ever. And Heritage Hill North doing a fantastic job at Sweetheart Corner on 628 South Main Street, North Syracuse, New York. So, from the Heritage Hill Studios, this is Wake Up Call. Inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com is what's popping. You know, PJ and I have a big conversation coming up every Thursday. We're about to run the gamut today. We're going to start with the Preakness while you freak this. And so we'll talk about the Preakness horse racing. We'll jump into Major League Baseball. PJ will run through what's going on in the baseball world, gives us some stats, some standings. And then we're going to spend the bulk of our conversation today on the Jacksonville Jaguars. We're going on the prowl. That is the name, once again, of my coverage of the Jaguars of many years. You'll see our video intro of the Jaguars on the prowl. Then we'll get into the stadium conversation. $1.4 billion deal that the city of Jacksonville and the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise are looking to here and have agreed upon. Now it has to go to the council members. Then it goes to the NFL. And we'll get into what that looks like as we move forward here, as well as what that lease does to secure the Jaguars in Jacksonville for the coming years. And then, of course, we will break down the Jacksonville Jaguars schedule. I got my notes. PJ has his on every single game from the preseason to week 18. That's right, folks. We'll be breaking down the entire Jaguars schedule. So if you're all about them Jaguars, you're going to want to be here with us all the way through the broadcast, here where sports meets life. Of course, you are with us on Facebook.com and YouTube.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. However you're listening into the show, we appreciate it. However you're watching the show, we appreciate it very, very much so. I cannot thank you enough for being a supporter of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And with so many great pieces of today's show going up with Papa Joe, I do want to give a little intro here. For those of you that don't know Papa Joe, and if you don't know PJ, well, I don't know what you've been doing in your life. He's been with me for a bunch of years here, and we started out doing one broadcast about football. We were doing some college stuff. Then we started doing some pro stuff. And then I said to PJ, I said, can I get you to come back here and let's do something more often? So then we started doing football season. Now we do all year long. Why? Because you can never have enough Papa Joe in your life. So PJ is here with us. And, we'll talk about that for a second here. We'll talk about that Jared Goff deal and how much money he's making. But all I can say is the amount of money that Jared Goff's making, it doesn't hold a candle to what I paid Papa Joe to get him to extend to every Thursday. PJ, let's bring him in here. I pay PJ in hugs and chocolate. PJ, how we doing?
Good. My agent will call you in 20 minutes.
Hey, just make sure it's not Drew Rosenhaus or any of those guys. So, but PJ, I want to hit you with this really quick here before we get into the Preakness while you freak this. So, looking at the Jared Goff deal, I just want to get your thoughts on this for a second. We're going to talk about it in the Jaguars schedule, but signing an extension of 4 years for Jared Goff, 4 years, $212 million, 170 guaranteed. and he is now going to be annually the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL. But here's the crazy thing. Joe Burrow has the highest annual salary for a quarterback currently in the NFL, $55 million. Jared Goff will now, with this extension with Detroit, make $53 annually. So both of these quarterbacks who have never won a Super Bowl are now making more annual base salary than Pat Mahomes. What are your thoughts?
Well, it doesn't seem fair on the outset, does it? But Mahomes makes $20 million off the season by all his representation in the companies. He gets paid a ton of money for that. So I don't know if Joe Burrow does, and I don't know if Jared Goff does, but they don't have to do that. McCone likes to do that. He likes to State Farm stuff in Subway, and so it makes a lot of money. So, but look, Goff is overdue. He's actually he probably should have been paid this when he was with LA. I don't know what happened over there, but he really blossomed when he came to Detroit. I think he's a sensational quarterback. He's got all the skills. He runs well. He throws really well. Got touch. Throws a rifle. He's just a super quarterback and a super guy too. So, we'll see what happens here when the season starts and he gets his body in condition to get killed on.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see here as we go what ends up happening with Mr. Goff, but happy to see him. Happy to see him extended there. Obviously, they're relying on him. They're leaning on him to be the guy, and we'll see what that looks like in the future. They decided to not draft a quarterback early. They did get Hendon Hooker, who looks like he could be a future insurance policy for the team, something that they are going to maybe lean on here. But ultimately, it is Jared Goff, and it's Jared Goff for the future, and they really believe that he could be the guy that's going to lead them to the promised land, PJ. So we'll see how it goes from here. But this is a situation where now we got 3 quarterbacks in the NFL making at least based on a base salary, at least $50 million a year. Your thoughts?
That's filthy money, Daniel. It's filthy money. I mean, how can a guy who's struggling to make his rent payment and loves to watch football on Sunday, how can he grasp all this? I mean, it's impossible to wrap your head around. I mean, it's filthy money, but, the teams are making it, I guess. We don't see anyone going out of business. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. So, speaking of big money, filthy money, let's go to the Preakness while you freak this. The horse racing is going on this weekend, and of course, Mystic Dan is coming off of winning very recently here and in the Kentucky Derby. So very excited about that. The Preakness, looking at what's going on here, we have an updated field. So we know that there's some changes that have been made, some different things that are happening here, and the favorite going into this is Muth, who was scratched from the second leg of the Triple Crown after spiking a fever. So we know that there's some different things that are going on here now. Muth is the only horse to be scratched from the Preakness so far, and the Preakness field started with 9 horses. It's now down to just 8 horses, and PJ talked about how the Kentucky Derby has a ton of horses. This one has 8. We have Mugatu, we have Uncle Heavy, Catchin' Freedom, my dude Mystic Dan, say word. We also have Seize the Gray, Just Steel, Tuscan Gold, and Imagination. So PJ, bring us into the Preakness while you freak this.
Well, if you're familiar with horse racing, after the Kentucky Derby, when 20 horses try to beat themselves up around a mile and a quarter, it's after that race, the Preakness comes up 2 weeks later, and most horsemen's views, and this is serious. You really shouldn't run a horse back after just 2 weeks. It really hurts them. They're only 3-year-olds. They're still babies. So that's why every year the Preakness has a very, very small field compared to the Kentucky Derby. and even compared to the Belmont. There is a movement going forward that after the Derby, that there'll be 3 weeks between the Preakness and the Derby, and then another 4 weeks to get into the Belmont, which is a grueling race at 1.5 miles. These horses, they're fit, but they're not that fit, and those to break down. So when you get into the race, Muth was an overwhelming favorite, even despite Mystic Dan being a Derby winner. Muth was a killer out west. No pun intended to Bob Baffert, who I don't like at all, but that was a Baffert horse. And he did the right thing. The horse had 103 temperature, and you just can't run him that way, so you got to scratch him. To get through the horses, you got to move back to a 20-1, Uncle Heavy at 20-1, Catching Freedom is 6-1, Mystic Dan is the favorite now at 5-2, Seize the Glory 15-1, Two Cent Gold 8-1, which is my horse. Then Imagination is 6-1. Now a little background. Catching Freedom is a Brad Cox horse. Brad Cox is one of the 3 best trainers in the country, and he always brings a horse to race that wins. He's got a great stable, and his purses every year almost total $30 million in winnings. He's got a good shot with Catching Freedom. Mystic Dan, of course, is the Derby winner.
Yeah.
Ken McPeak is running on horseback against what he usually does. I mean, this is not something that Ken McPeak does. He's been around a long time, and he knows that there should be a little bit more time to rest. But he put Mystic Dan through its motions, and he came back off of a mile gallop, a good mile gallop, and he seemed good. So Ken McPeak entered him and said, we'll give it a shot. But I can guarantee you this, I don't think if he wins, I don't know if he'll be in the Belmont. That's just too much to ask, some of these horses. My horse I like is Tucson Gold. He's 8-1. He is a Chad Brown horse, and if you know me, I'm a Chad Brown fan. Chad Brown trains horses. Every horse that enters a race, Chad Brown is entered to win. A lot of these guys just enter the horses just to get a race under their belt. Not Chad Brown. If he's got a horse in a race, he's ready. He's ready to win. I like him. I don't think he'll be 8-1 when the post time comes off. I think he'll probably be down to 3 or 4-1. Imagination is the last horse in this field that I think it has a shot, and that's Bob Baffert's horse. Baffert had Moose, who was scratched, and he brings Imagination with him. Imagination's no slouch either. He's a Grade 1 winner. I just don't like Baffert. Baffert cheats. He's cheated for years. He can't go and he can't race in the Derby because his horses were dirty. I mean, they came back with drugs in their system. The horse industry has a very difficult time improving these guys that cheat, and they have test about all these horses, and the horses don't care about it, but the analysis all the time, and guys like Baffert get caught. So Baffert can't run on the Kentucky Derby, but he brings his horses over here to the Preakness. Yeah. He'll have a good shot with Imagination. So it's a 1.3 miles, 16th race, Daniel. It looks like the weather's going to be wet and sloppy. I'll be looking for another maybe scratch or two. Trainers don't like to run their horses in sloppy weather unless the track is fast. Now, that may sound strange to you, but if a track is fast when it's sloppy, which means the cushion that it's got goes all the way down to the base. The horse's hoof goes all the way down to the base through the slop. It makes them feel good. It doesn't make them feel bad. Yeah. And actually, they race faster. So if it's a sloppy racetrack, I still like Tucson Gold, but the Preakness is in Baltimore, and Baltimore is not one of the prettiest cities. They've had racing in Maryland for years with Laurel Park and Bowley Park, Biblical, and it's a terrible area. I've been there. It sucks. I mean, I'm surprised it's not knocked down by now, but I'm not sure they can keep holding the Preakness there. But one race a year, I guess they can do it. So everyone have fun on Saturday watching this race.
Yeah, we'll see the Preakness while you freak this Saturday, and you can watch the Preakness. Make sure that you do and see this Saturday, May 18th of 2024, and the Preakness race is going to start at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's the 149th running of the $2 million Preakness Stakes, and it's going to be at Pimlico Race Course in Baltimore. It's the 13th of 14 races scheduled at Pimlico that day, and coverage of the early races will begin at 1:30 on CNBC, stream on Peacock. The Preakness starts at 4:30, pardon me on that. So, bunch of races going on. The 13th of the 14 races is going to be the Preakness, and the Preakness will officially start at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC and on Peacock, which is NBC's streaming platform. If you want to see the other races and connect with those, you could see those on CNBC and on Peacock starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So this Saturday, midday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, you can watch the Preakness. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life, PJ and I are going to take a step aside for a quick, fast break here on Wake Up Call inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. We'll be back with Major League Baseball coverage as PJ brings us through what's going on in baseball. The Phillies, can anybody catch up with their heat? And can the Diamondbacks, please, third week in a row, 2 games under 500? Can we get to a Thursday with them being above 500? We'll talk about all that stuff coming up here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from the Heritage Hill Studios right after this. Central New Yorkers, you can now enjoy the taste of Heritage Hill award-winning craft beers, seltzers, and a full bar at 3 locations. Spend your weekends at their beautiful location in Pompey with its amazing views, sunsets, family, and pet-friendly facilities, as well as extensive private event areas. Get their taps, tonics, and tastes in their brand new North Syracuse location at Sweetheart Corner in North Syracuse, New York. When flying in and out of Syracuse Hancock International Airport, make sure to visit their Palladino Farms location. At Heritage Hill, they believe in supporting our community and are excited to now meet you where you're at and where you're going with their local farm-raised tastes. Find out more information at heritagehillbrewery.com. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also, I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was, selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you hanging out with us every single Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Always appreciate you being here with us on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Of course, it's Thursday, which means we have Papa Joe with us from inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. You can go see Heritage Hill out on Sweet Road in Pompey. You can also see Heritage Hill at their new location on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, New York, right there at Sweetheart Corners. Sweet Road and Sweetheart Corners. Like I said earlier this week, I think Dan Palladino, the owner, did that on purpose because they are all too sweet over there at Heritage Hill. So make sure you go and see their locations today and support local. PJ and I are jumping into the baseball world here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, which is heard around the world on YouTube.com and Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. PJ, it's baseball time. What do you got for us?
Okay, we'll go through the standings and we'll comment on some of those, and then we'll get into the leaders, the batting averages, home runs, RBIs, and so on like that. I've cut this a little bit short this week, obviously, because we have other things to talk about. So yeah, I'll go through this, and if there's any questions, we'll answer them. American League East, Baltimore and New York are just about even. They're running away with everything, and the Red Sox are 22-21. They're 5 games behind these guys. Looks like Baltimore and New York are going to slug it out. Baltimore gave us something last year. They were no fluke, and this year they're just as good. And I really look for them to just hang in there for the whole year. The Central Division, Cleveland is surprising everyone at 27-17. KC is 26-19. They're 1.5 games back. Cleveland surprising everyone this year also, because every year Papa Joe says the Central Divisions of both leagues suck. Well, this year they're not, and I'll explain why. Cleveland is doing a hell of a job. They finally got the production from their big man, Jose Ramirez, who is a hitting machine and should be thought of as an MVP player this year. In the West, we got Seattle at 24-20. Texas is 23-22, a game and a half behind. This is supposed to be what the Central Division is, and it turned out to be lousy. Houston doesn't have a clue what's happening. I don't know if they're going through this year. But 24-20. We're almost a quarter of the way, a little bit more than a quarter of the way through the season already. It just flies by. In the National League, we got Philly at 31-13. They got the best record in baseball. They got the best 2 pitchers right now in baseball, Wheeler and Noah. And Atlanta's trying to stay up with them. They're 26-14. They're 3 games behind. Philly, of course, is going to run into some problems because they're good, but they're not that good. Bryce Harper will carry them as long as he can, hitting-wise, but the pitching really needs to come up with Philly. The Central Division, my Brewers are 26-17. The Cubs are 25-19, a game and a half behind. Now there's a little drama here because the manager of the Cubs, Craig Counsell, used to be the manager of Milwaukee for 7 years. So now we got a little bit of conflict there, and I like it like that. The Cubs look like they're probably going to overtake Milwaukee later on because they got better pitching, but we'll see. That's why they play the game. In the West, no one's going to catch the Dodgers. They're 29-16. San Diego's net at 22-24, 7.5 games behind already, and a quarter of the way through the season. Zona, Daniel, is 21-23. They are in the pits, brother. They ain't doing it. But there's plenty of games to play, and they're going to knock heads with Los Angeles sooner or later, and they'll probably improve. In the American League, leading batter is Stephen Kwan from Cleveland. Is still batting over 350. I've mentioned I don't know anything about this guy. I just got to keep looking him up. He's a hell of a hitter. I don't know if he's just a flash in a pan, or he's going to be a one that's consistent. Kyle Turner's got Tucker from Houston's got 13 RBIs or 13 home runs. Jose Ramirez from Cleveland is leading with RBIs with 37.
Yeah.
In the wins department, we got Seth Lugo at 6 wins, and his ERA is 1.66. Great job with him. But here's something better. Clay Holmes is leading the league in saves, and the Yankees with 12. The thing that's unusual about this is that he has not given up an earned run yet. That's right, folks. You get a 0 ERA, and he's saved 12 games. He's pitched over 15 innings, hasn't given up a run. Kudos to him. The National League batting average, Ohtani is leading at 364. He had to take some time off last week because he did something to his back or whatever, you know. He's just an amazing hitter. I don't even know if he's ever going to pitch again, Daniel. In home runs, Ozuna from Atlanta's got 12. He also has got 41 RBIs, leading RBIs. In wins, Ranger Suarez of Philly has 8 wins. He's also has a 1.37 ERA. He is leading Philly. Now, I didn't figure Suarez would do this. I knew that Nola and Wheeler were going to be good this year. But this guy comes in and starts throwing darts. Great. Didn't get a rush. He's got 13 saves, and that's about wraps it up. You know, without getting involved with the future games and the summer schedule, things are starting to move around. And what we talked about with the Dodgers is going to be true. They got the 29-16, even though they got the second best record in baseball. They're a better team than Philly, but they're just going to run over that whole division. And the Arizona it can come back a little bit if they sweep a series once. They sweep the series, maybe LA will get a little pressure on them.
Yeah, I mean, there's been some good things that have happened. I mean, they just got a series victory last night, and so I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks are putting some work in. They're doing some good things, and you know, hopefully they'll find their way. The issue is how good the Dodgers are. The Dodgers have been so good that the Arizona Diamondbacks only 2 games under 500, as well as the San Diego Padres. Not that far under 500, 2 games under themselves. They're both 7.5 games behind Los Angeles because Los Angeles keeps winning. So they might have been a little bit closer, maybe 2 games, maybe 2.5, whatever it may be. Now there's 7.5 as Los Angeles tries to make some separation here even more so with a record of 29-16 at the time of conversation of 162 games. Teams are somewhere around 44 to 46 games played. And as PJ made mention of where teams are at, I think one of the races, we talk about the central divisions being divisions where, not as strong. Last year we were looking at some things, and in the NL Central, the Milwaukee Brewers and the Chicago Cubs are neck and neck with each other. Milwaukee's 26-17. The Cubs are 25-19. That's a race that I think is cool to follow. And then I think the Atlanta Braves, I mean, their record is really good, and it would be good enough in most of the divisions. But the Phillies are just better. And Atlanta's, 26-14, but Philly's 31-13, owners of the best record in baseball. They have the most wins of any of the 30 MLB franchises. The Yankees are taking care of business, but the Orioles are 27-14, so there's something to be said about that. And then, at the bottom of the barrel, let's give a shout out to the Chicago White Sox. They have double-digit wins now. They now have 14. They did have like 8 or 9. They now have 14. They're 14-30. And the Oakland A's are still in third place of the AL West. They're above the Astros. They're above the Angels. You said Houston might have some issues. PJ, I would venture to say Houston has a problem. So we're in a place right now where some of these things are happening that maybe we thought would, and there's other things that we didn't think would happen, right? The Mets, Kodai Senga being out and these different injuries and whatnot, the Mets are in 4th out of 5th place of the NL East. That's not good for them where they stack up right now. Not really surprised on where the West is as far as the NL West goes, with the Dodgers leading that area, leading the charge. The Detroit Tigers have had a season, they're around 500, 21-22, but because the Central has 3 teams with 17, 18, and 19 losses, Detroit's in 4th place in that division. And then Tampa Bay is right at 500 at 22-22 in a very difficult division yearly of the AL East. And I'm sure some things are going to change in that respect. So any final notes, any notes you want to make on baseball before we really get jumping in here to Jacksonville Jaguars coverage and go on the prowl? Because there's a lot of things to discuss with Jacksonville. So any other notes you want to make with baseball?
The players that led their teams last year are not particularly doing that this year. And one of the players is you're on your Diamondbacks, and that's Corbin Carroll.
Yeah.
He took the league by storm last year. He's a terrific young ball player. Unfortunately, he's not even hitting the Mendoza line right now, which is 200. Now, in order for Arizona to stay competitive or even win, they need Corbin Carroll at the top of the order, not in the middle of the order or the end of the order. He's a true leadoff hitter. Let him work through his problems. Let him get going. Once he starts setting the table, then the big boppers can come in and start scoring some runs. So that's really the only one that I consider really scary right now. Is this kid's not barely hitting 200, and Arizona's way, way down the list.
Yeah, Corbin Carroll, it's been quiet, and it's unfortunate. We need to wake his bat up and see what he can do. They brought in more pitching. Now it's time to see what they can do in the hitting role. We know that they can hit in big. They can literally, when they start hitting for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they hit in bunches. And Geraldo Perdomo, he's had some injury going on. Hopefully he gets back. Supposed to be June 1st, I believe. So looking forward to seeing him back. Speaking of being back, we'll be back in just a moment here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. PJ and I are going to talk to you about the Jaguars Stadium. What did the mayor say about the need for this stadium? Her message was clear, and we're going to talk about it right after this.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, hanging out here. Of course, you know that we are proud to be with the exclusive studio partner that we have, Heritage Hill. Heritage Hill is with us in Pompey. You can find Heritage Hill. I just went up there for Mother's Day with my mama, and we were up at Heritage Hill in Pompey in the rolling hills of central and upstate New York, and we appreciate the brew house out there on Sweet Road in Pompey. And then, of course, right by the airport and right by so many places from Cicero to Clay to North Syracuse to East Syracuse to the city of Syracuse, Heritage Hill North, right by everything on 628 South Main Street at Sweetheart Corner. You can go to Heritage Hill there in North Syracuse and in Pompey. And if you're traveling through the Syracuse Hancock International Airport, you can go to Palladino Farms, which is all in connection here with Heritage Hill, and feel free to see them before you see your way out on whatever trip you may be taking. Or if you're coming into the community, then you're at the airport, then make sure you head off to Heritage Hill as well. So we appreciate the Heritage Hill family, and of course Dan Palladino, the owner of Heritage Hill Brewhouse and Heritage Hill North, our proud studio partners. With that being said, PJ and I are going to get in to the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium. And in order to get into the stadium, folks, it's time for me to put those pictures up on your screen. Does this stadium look beautiful? It looks like this crazy spaceship, futuristic. I mean, if you ever watched the cartoon The Jetsons, when you saw that space family with the robot maid and all that stuff, that's what this looks like. It looks like the Jetsons, and I'm ecstatic about this. Probably I'm most excited about for the fans of this whole stadium, this whole reimagining. They call it the Stadium of the Future. What I'm really excited about for Jacksonville is that it's an open air stadium, but there's going to be a shield. It's almost like the stadium is wearing sunglasses, and this shield is supposed to take the degrees down like 15 degrees in the stadium, which essentially what I'm thinking is when people are like, oh, people aren't going to the Jacksonville Jaguars games, you guys must not have fans. No, it's that it's 97 degrees outside, and if you stand outside for a 3-hour game, it's like God has a magnifying glass and you're trying not to pass out. So with the new stadium that they're looking to do here, one of the things is having this like kind of shield where the stadium is open, but the top of the stadium is going to be essentially, how I look at it, like sunglasses. And I'm going to bring up a picture here that shows it a little bit better, but that there's going to be this kind of shield at the top of the stadium so that the degrees within the stadium will go down a little bit. So if it's 91 outside and it takes it down 15, then we're looking at 76 degrees instead of 91 degrees, which will hopefully make it more bearable for fans so that they can pack the stadium, not worry about passing out. PJ, what do you think about this stadium? We're going to get into some specifics, but the fact that the Jaguars are putting so much into the reimagining of their stadium, calling it the Stadium of the Future. We're looking at a deal that's $1.4 billion, where the city of Jacksonville, Florida, and the Jaguars franchise are going to split cost, and then there's going to be some cost over top of that. But just your thoughts on the fact that over $1 billion is going to go in to the Jaguars staying in Jacksonville.
Well, the shape of it, looks like the European stadiums where they play soccer, where the field is open from above, and you got the little ring around all the way around, which I guess protects the fans from rain and maybe even sun, things like that. If that's what they're trying to do, I think that's pretty good. I go back a long way with the Gator Bowl. I mean, I go back 70 years with the Gator Bowl. It's always been a Gator Bowl to me, Daniel. I don't care what they call it now. The Gator Bowl was not a very attractive stadium to begin with.
Yeah.
They keep doing things to it and doing things to it. Now, Khan comes in, he's doing things to it. It's still the damn Gator Bowl, and it looks terrible. And I don't know what they can do for $1.4 million or $1.2 billion, but I hope they jazz it up a little bit. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but there's a lot of people in Jacksonville and fans too that are not happy about this deal. There's not enough going to areas where it should go to, and I'm sure we'll touch into that later. But I don't know where we're going to play. I don't know if they can make the 8th August of 28. That's when it's supposed to be open. I mean, hell, that's 4 years. I mean, geez. I guess we could play there for a couple of years, and 27 they won't be able to play there. I imagine they'll be taking down the seats and stuff. I don't get it. Shad has a bunch of other stuff that he's going to get into too, but I just needed a comment on the stadium itself. It's always been poor and it's always been smelly, but it's come a long way, and the Gator Bowl is the Gator Bowl to all of us, and now it's whatever name you can pay the team to say on it. So let's go from there.
Yeah, I mean, so this is essentially what it looks like, and this is, like we got the picture up here for those of you on Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT watching worldwide, and on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. Those of you listening on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com, we're describing this to you. I'm going to give you some background information. Jaguars in the city of Jacksonville agreed to a $1.4 billion quote-unquote Stadium of the Future that will keep the franchise there for many, many years. Now, the proposal calls for each side, meaning the city of Jacksonville itself and the Jaguars franchise, to contribute $625 million to the $1.25 billion project. Jacksonville won't levy any new taxes to pay for the rebuild, which will chip in. So that means that the city will chip in another $150 million to get Everbank Stadium ready for construction in 2026. The plan was presented at a city council meeting on Tuesday, May 14th, just a couple days ago. Council members are expected to vote on it in late June. So about a month from now, they're going to be voting on this. They need a simple majority of the 19 members needed to pass. So a simple majority of the 19 members in the council. Then it goes, so if it gets passed by the council, so the city of Jacksonville, the Jaguars organization, they agree to it. Then we go from there to the council members. We need a majority of the 19 to say yes. Then after that, it goes to the NFL. Then the meeting in October for the NFL would need 24 of 32 votes for the final approval. At least 24 of the 32 franchises have to say yes. Jacksonville says yes, which means they need 23 other votes. Now, the president, who's been on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora before, the president of the Jaguars, Mark Lamping, he said, quotes, "We wouldn't be proposing it or pushing it if we didn't think we have a certain level of confidence that this deal would be approved." End quote. Construction would begin following the 2025 season, which means for the next 2 years, we're good. 2024-25, 2025-26, Jaguars doing their thing at Everbank Stadium. Then the Jaguars would play in front of a reduced capacity in 2026 and host home games in either Gainesville or Orlando the following year. So that means in 2026, as construction begins, they're going to still play at Everbank, but it's going to be reduced capacity. Then they move to Gainesville or Orlando. You know, I've been a proponent of them going to the old Citrus Bowl. Camping World Stadium is what it is now. That's where I believe they should go. Why? Because the stadium's not being used at this time. Why? Because they don't have to fight with a college team on scheduling. Why? Because it's in the mecca of amusement for the nation, if not the world, in Orlando, Florida. Why? Because you're going to get fans that are going to Universal Studios and Disney and SeaWorld to come to a Jaguars game. Why? Because it's freaking Orlando and there's direct flights all over to it. It makes way too much sense to have it in Orlando at Camping World Stadium. So they looked at Daytona Beach International Speedway, which I was not a fan of, and they're not going to end up doing it there. Now, the proposal will include a 30-year lease, which means that the Jaguars will stay in Jacksonville, Florida for at least the next 30 years, meaning that once construction begins in 2026, we'd have the Jaguars in Jacksonville on this new 30-year plan until the late 2050s, if not 2060, based on when this lease is signed for, because the construction is going to be going on. So we're looking at the Jaguars into the 2050s at least, staying in Jacksonville, Florida. The proposal, including this, also has agreements that address the franchise's future in London and a non-relocation clause. Under the new lease, the Jaguars would play all preseason and postseason games in Jacksonville and would continue to play one home game a year in London, likely at Wembley Stadium, where they currently have done that. Jacksonville Jaguars, there has been no franchise of the 32 franchises in the NFL that has spent more time in London than the Jacksonville Jaguars franchise. So, something to note here on the Jaguars. Now, when it says all preseason and postseason games will be played in Jacksonville, obviously that doesn't mean they're going to play their road postseason or road preseason games in Jacksonville. It just means that the Jaguars cannot play a preseason or postseason game in London or anywhere else. That if it's a home game, it's a true home game in Jacksonville. Now, the Jaguars can play one additional home game every 4 years overseas, but only if the NFL dictates and only during seasons in which the Jaguars have 9 home games, meaning that in a season like this season where they have 8 home games, because with the new 17-game schedule in 18 weeks, you have 9 home games one year and then you have 9 road games the next. This is a year where they have 9 road games, meaning they have only 8 home games, so they can't play 2 home games in London. But the Jaguars last year gave up a home game and a road game to London. They're doing that again this year, which means they'll have 7 true home games, 1 in London that's considered at home, and then 8 true road games and then 1 road game in London. So Jacksonville owns global marketing rights in Ireland and the United Kingdom. Mayor Donna Deegan, this is what I was getting to, said, quote, "It is with great pride that we're an NFL city. It means a lot to the community. It's a rallying point for Jacksonville. And while nobody wants to spend a lot of money, the truth is, this was a binary choice. We could build the stadium, or we could lose our team. And that's not going to happen on my watch. This is something that's incredibly important to Jacksonville." End quote. PJ, your thoughts on this? We are looking at this new stadium approach, like you said, about soccer stadiums, and obviously Shad Khan knows all about it, bringing the team to London, to Wembley, and Tottenham to see those stadiums where they're playing soccer matches overseas. So it makes perfect sense that this new stadium of the future is going to be a home for potential U.S. soccer matches as well as concerts, and maybe it improves the United States' opportunity to host FIFA things of the future with yet another reimagined stadium. So the 63,000-seat open-air stadium will have a translucent covering, which is what I got to before, that sunglass effect. That's the equivalent of wearing shades in the sun, quote-unquote, said President Mark Lamping. And it's looking at lowering outside temperatures by 15 degrees, which is really, really cool. There's going to be 140% more concourse space, 190 new points of sale, 16 new escalators, 12 new elevators, and 12 new restrooms. So a lot of information, PJ, but I want you to tell me what your thoughts are on Mayor Donna Deegan saying we could either build the stadium or lose the team.
Well, to build a stadium, to rebuild a stadium, which they're trying to do, does not make fiscal sense to me. First of all, let me address the London games. Why do we have to go to London and play football? I mean, it would cost millions, it doesn't cost millions of dollars just to get our guys over there with the support group for the teams and everything like that. Must be 200 people. I mean, and you got to put them up and you got to feed them. Why are we doing that to begin with? I never liked it to begin with. Never liked it. Now, to address Ms. Deegan, Donna wants this deal bad because that's going to be that's what she's going to hang her hat on.
Yeah.
She's got to have it bad. But there's a lot of people in the city that do not want this, and there's a reason. And it's because there's going to be cost overruns. I don't care who's building anything. There's always going to be cost overruns, and there is a pension for the police and the firemen. That was included in the beginning of this deal, and she took it out. Now, to me, that's unethical. I'm a businessman. I don't want to see that out.
Yeah.
Now, how are you going to get that back in to pay the pension for the firemen and the police? I don't see any avenue for that to do that. Now, if our people in Duval County are going to vote on this, or whoever's going to vote on it, they're looking at that real closely. And if they're saying, listen, why are we spending all this billions of dollars on what this football thing is when we're using an 8 or 9 game year? You know, what's going to happen to our attention for the firemen and the police? That needs to be addressed, Daniel. That really needs to be addressed.
Yeah. Well, and and the thing is, and we look at cost overrun, like you said, and there is a note here on that, so I do want to make a note of it here. We're looking at other pieces that are within this, and I believe Shad Khan, and I want to make sure that I read this correctly. Yes, so Jaguars owner Shad Khan agreed to take on all construction cost overruns, assume day-to-day operation of the stadium, and take on the majority of game day expenses moving forward. So that's going to go to Shad Khan. We look at this. Capacity could be expanded to 71,500 to accommodate the annual Florida-Georgia rivalry, the Gator Bowl, a college football playoff game, or the Final Four. So the Jaguars, with this new stadium in the future, could be hosting the Final Four, which is huge. Pools and a party deck would remain in the north end zone. The city and the Jaguars still hope to add substantial development to the surrounding area, which is expected to include a University of Florida satellite campus, Go Gators, that would bring in 10,000 graduate students. Deegan called the surrounding area critical to the development of the downtown area. Now, if you have been around Jacksonville like me, in my coverage of the team over these last few years, they have changed the highway system through Jacksonville. They have built ramps and taken certain things away. They are building hotels. They are building places to live as well, apartments and hotels going up, and they've changed the whole dynamic of what everything looks like by the water. They've changed the parking lots as well in certain places. So Jacksonville is already changing the area, and of course Daly's Place went up pre-COVID, which is it's an area for concerts and different amusement pieces, and it was open air. Now it is closed. You can also utilize that if you're not going in the stadium to watch the game itself, and so they have that area as well that is connected to the stadium. Once again, Daly's Place, for those of you that haven't been down there. The Jaguars have been in the bottom quartile of the league in revenue for decades and have played annually in London since 2013 to help boost their bottom line. The team's lease runs through 2029, leaving little room for prolonged negotiations and or do-overs. So this new 30-year lease would take them to 2059, which would be almost 2060 at the time that we're looking at this. The city wants to finance its portion by moving $600 million from a capital improvement plan and using revenue from an existing half-penny sales tax to fund the build in a pay-as-you-go campaign. The city says it would save $1.5 billion in debt service fees over the life of this lease. So we'll see how they move money around and shift this. We've learned that when it comes to national government or state government or what's going on in cities and towns, that if they want to find the money for something, they will. So this is what we're looking at, PJ. It is a confusing stadium currently. If you go up one ramp, it's hard to figure out how to get back down. Sometimes I would go up one area and then go down the one area I knew just to come all the way back around to figure it out. So, seeing some of these changes are going to be crucial. They have done a revamping. They spent, I believe, $60 million when they did the video boards and some other pieces to the Jaguars stadium. So they've already done upkeep. They've already done video board stuff. They've made some changes. They made some changes in the locker room. They've made changes in what things look like in the lower concourse when you're going in. The locker rooms look better. So it's not that the Jaguars haven't put money into this already, PJ, but now they're doing an entire revamping of this stadium. I mean, this stadium, once again, to put the pictures back up for those of you on YouTube and Facebook, the stadium is going to look drastically different, and it's going to feature a heck of a lot of teal. And, that's obviously a good thing here, but they're hoping to bring in, like I said, the NCAA tournament, Final Four maybe. They're hoping to bring in U.S. soccer matches as well as different concerts and events. So, that's going to hopefully help Shad Khan offset some costs and help the Jaguars make some money here. But it's a lot of money going into this, PJ, and something that's going to sustain the Jaguars in Jacksonville for another 30 years, which is great news. Still needs to be approved by the council members, like I said, a majority of the 19, and then still needs to be approved by at least 24 of the 32 NFL franchises in October at their October meetings in order to pass. But this is where we're at, PJ. I mean, Jacksonville is getting this new stadium. It's going to cause some friction within the next few years, right? After the next two seasons, are they going to relocate to Gainesville, which I don't agree with? I think they should go to Orlando. I think it makes more sense to go to Orlando, use a stadium that's got a ton of seating, use a stadium that has a ton of history, use a stadium that is right in the heart, like I said, of the amusement capital of the nation, if not the world. Utilize an area that has direct flights, utilize a city that can get around the team, utilize the fact that a bunch of people are coming through there at all times during the year. There's no time where there's not tourism coming into Orlando. So you could get some new Jaguars fans just like they have done in London. So I think Jacksonville going to Camping World Stadium makes the most sense, and you're not fighting with another pro team. You're not fighting with a college team that's playing their games there, so you're not worried about scheduling as much. I just think that if the price is right, relocating them to Jacksonville, which is an hour, to Orlando, which is an hour and a half from Jacksonville, makes the most sense. Any final notes you want to make?
Well, I don't want to sound like I'm against this whole thing. I mean, I do want to see the team excel, and I do want to see that this make fiscal sense.
Yeah.
And I do understand that Shad Khan is a visionary. I know. I mean, he is. He's not too realistic sometimes, but he is a visionary. Now, remember, you don't remember this. I remember it. We used to go to Metro Park. We used to sit in Metro Park and listen to jazz concerts twice a year. No charge. You go on and sit down and play. That's gone. They tried to Riverwalk, whatever happened there. They knocked that down. So why is he building a four-season hotel with 170 rooms and 26 private homes?
Yeah.
He wants a Bay Street shipyard. He wants a marina and a support building. He wants an event lawn. Yeah, we already had an event lawn, and they took it away. A river walk. Well, you had the river stuff right there. 3 or 4 restaurants. They all closed. And the restaurants. Look at this town, this city is not like any. It's just like any other city in this country. The downtown area sucks. It's filthy. It's dirty. And it's no different than anywhere else. The infrastructure of Duval County is in terrible shape. I agree that they built some roads. They're trying to build some bridges. If we're going to put money into this, it needs to go back. Something needs to be kicked back to the infrastructure and also to take care of the policemen and the firemen. I don't disagree with the project. I just don't want to see us and whoever comes in to keep rebuilding and rebuilding that Gator Bowl. That's all.
Yeah, and I think now they're saying, hey, we're gonna change the stadium. We're changing everything. We're gonna build something new. We're gonna have a stadium of the future, and we're gonna create. And I think, listen, the things that they've done, I don't think people fully understand Daly's place. I don't think people understand the change to the highway system and the building of the ramps. I don't think people understand the building of, the leveling areas or just cleaning up areas so that they can build hotels and so that they can build, apartments for people. I don't think, when people understand the video boards that look like you're wearing 3D glasses even though you're not. People don't know, unless they're in Jacksonville, unless they're physically there, which I have been for many, many years by the grace of God and many thanks to the Jaguars organization. I have seen the change. I have seen the change in the traffic patterns. I have seen the change in where I park. I have seen the change in Daly's Place being connected to it and when that didn't exist before. And all the concerts that come in and the big names that they bring in. I have seen the changes. And last season, at the end of the season, I'm driving by roads that say this is the future home of these apartments. This is the future home of this hotel. So I have witnessed that Jacksonville has been consistently under Shad Khan spending money. These Jaguars have been spending money. The city has been spending money to try and clean up the city. But here's the thing, and to PJ's point, there are infrastructure problems within the city. There are issues with buildings within the city. There are rundown-looking places within the city. Now, Maxwell House Coffee being downtown, there's a bunch of stuff that's downtown. But there's things within that are great. There's things within the city of Jacksonville, all right? You can put lipstick on a pig. You can build a great apartment. But if the city's dangerous, the city's dangerous. You can build something that looks pristine, but if there's crime, there's crime. And so cleaning up the city... And you saw what they did with Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn was dangerous. Brooklyn was dirty. Now they cleaned up Brooklyn. Brooklyn's a little more safe. It's more of an upscale thing now. So are they looking to do that with Jacksonville? Are they looking to essentially get the riffraff, right? The crime and the issues out of there by making it too expensive for those people to be there? We'll see what this ends up looking like, but it comes down to taking care of the first responders and the law enforcement and, our firefighters and all of that, and making sure that the city itself is safe, and making sure that the people that protect the city are well compensated, and, the construction workers are well compensated. Because at the end of the day, people think about stadiums, they think about apartments, they think about money, they think about things that look shiny and all the new toys that are out there, but somebody has to build it and somebody has to protect it. And if we're not taking care of the people that build it and protect it, we're not doing anything to make the city better. And that's the real. So, With that being said, we're going to take a step aside here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. My mic is teal, and we're going on the prowl after this. Jacksonville Jaguars. PJ and I break down the entire schedule. Notes, baby. I got pages on pages. So does PJ. I got so many notes here from the preseason all the way through week 18. PJ and I are going on the prowl with the Jaguars right after this, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call. Don't you go anywhere. Inside of these Heritage Hill Studios, we'll be back right after this. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout central and upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here with us Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Papa Joe and I here with you on Thursdays. We have PJ with us in the PJ Takeover on Thursdays here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And, of course, we are coming to you from the incredible Heritage Hill Studios, Heritage Hill out in Pompey, the brew house, and they are there for you on Sweet Road out in Pompey and out right by the airport and numerous pieces of our community of Central New York. You will find a centrally located Heritage Hill North on 628 South Main Street in North Syracuse, right at Sweetheart Corner. It is time for PJ and I to go through the entire Jacksonville Jaguars 2024-25 schedule, and we call it on the prowl when we talk about Jaguars analysis here on Wake Up Call. For many years, I have referred to it as On the Prowl. That's what we do on Wake Up Call, and that is what you're going to see and hear before we talk about this right now. Prowl time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, going through the entire 2024-25 schedule that has just been released for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And PJ, we are going to go through this one by one, starting in the preseason. Game 1 of the preseason will see Kansas City come to town to Jacksonville. Your thoughts on seeing Kansas City in Game 1 in Duval?
Well, that's, we're not going to see Mahomes or the Kelsey or any of these guys. We'll see some, maybe Clyde Hellray at running back, Isaiah Pacheco. I don't know if he'll play that very much. What I'm looking forward to seeing from Kansas City, now that Rashee Rice is probably going to be out of football, is that I want to see this Xavier Worthy guy.
Yeah.
And I'm calling him the X-Man. And he is the X for Kansas City this year. Frankly, I hate to say it. I mean, he's a young guy. I mean, the offense could very well run through him and Kels instead of Rashee Rice and Kels.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy, that was a note that I made for Game 1 here, preseason Kansas City. Probably going to see, I would imagine, some Xavier Worthy, who the Chiefs had the 32nd pick, traded up with the Bills to get the 28th pick. The Bills traded down to 32 and then eventually to 33. Xavier Worthy runs a 4.21 40, set a record there. And why the Buffalo Bills would let the Chiefs trade up to take a guy that they now have to go up against, that you don't have to worry about Tyreek Hill anymore when the Bills are playing the Chiefs, but now they got to deal with Xavier Worthy. I have 3 of his rookie cards that I got really early and very excited to have the wide receiver out of Texas. We'll see him come to town in preseason Game 1. Preseason Game 2, PJ, the Bucs come to Jacksonville. Your thoughts?
I'd love to see Baker Mayfield play, but I don't think we're going to see him or Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, Cato in the tight end. I'd like to see the running attack, though, do a little something other than maybe Chase Edmonds, some other 2 or 3 guys that they've drafted. But these kind of games that we know, they're just not very exciting because we don't get to see the players that we want to see, and we're not going to see Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I think what I'm looking forward to in this one is a Syracuse connection. I'm looking forward to the opportunity of watching Sean Tucker, who is an undrafted free agent, went to the Bucs last year, got on the team and spent the entire season with the team in the 3 deep in the backfield. Hopefully he will be in Jacksonville for Game 2. And if he is, I think we'll see a good amount of Sean Tucker, Syracuse Orange alum and record holder at Syracuse. And looking forward to seeing him play on the field for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in that game. Shout out to Cuse in Owings, Maryland, where he is from. The 3rd preseason game is the only road one at the Falcons. PJ, your thoughts?
At the Falcons, so I guess we get to see Kirk Cousins, except we won't be seeing Kirk Cousins. Another reason that these preseason games are just nonsensical. I don't know what to say. I mean, I want to see Kirk Cousins. I want to see him throw the ball. Kyle Pitts was in jail for 3 years before they finally got a quarterback that can throw to this guy. I'm going to say it right here now. You heard from Papa J. Kyle Pitts is going to break out and have an all-pro season because of Kirk Cousins, period.
Yeah, hoping for that. And Kyle Pitts, I can't believe you didn't say this, PJ. Go what? Go
Gators. That's
right.
Me.
That's right. You know who we might see in this game is Michael Penix Jr., the 8th overall pick that shocked the nation. We might see him in this game get some action as the backup to Kirk Cousins currently. Then we jump into the regular season, breaking down the Jaguars' 2024-25 schedule on the prowl here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Week 1, the Jaguars will be on the road at Miami. So they're staying in the state of Florida, but they're traveling, about 4 hours or so south to Miami. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, right. Going to be a lot of fun. Miami, we know that Tua is set with his guys. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Ramsey, of course, plays in defense and everything. But Tua has now got Odell Beckham to come with him now. So I don't know about this. This is not an easy game for us to play against. And I think all our guys in the defensive backfield are going to have a big game against this guy. I look for even Andrew Wingard to come in this game and see if he can make some plays. Tua needs to be stopped, and it's not going to be the backs that are going to stop him, it's going to be the defensive line. It's got to be a new guy, Armstead, Adam Gotsis, going to come in. You got Josh Allen, of course. You know, that's the key right there. Get after Tua, make him uncomfortable, and see what happens.
Yeah. You know, Jalen Ramsey here, getting to see him and what he's going to look like. He's been a Jaguar, he's been a Ram, he's now a Dolphin. So the Jacksonville Jaguars will be going up against Jalen Ramsey, once again a former Jaguar who they drafted out of Florida State. Go MT. So looking at that, starting my notes on this one is starting the season on the road and then having Tua and Tyreek Hill, Odell Beckham Jr., what that's going to look like as their third receiver. Waddle while you work. So you got to defend Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Odell Beckham Jr. So this will be an interesting game for the Jaguars on the road at the Dolphins, and going up against Jalen Ramsey. Who is he going to take? Is he going to take Christian Kirk? Is he going to take Brian Thomas Jr.? So that'll be interesting to see that matchup as well on the road. Week 2, the Jaguars come home. This has happened in recent history. Week 1 on the road, Week 2 at home. Week 2, they'll be against the Cleveland Browns, PJ. What are your thoughts on the Jaguars-Browns in Duval?
This is just two games of the Jaguars in Jacksonville in the first 7 games of the year. I mean, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Cleveland, Deshaun Watson, big effing deal. We get to see that criminal, for crying out loud. We get to see Nick Chubb run, thank goodness. Jerome Ford run. Amari Cooper catching the ball with Jerry Jeudy. Myles Garrett played in defense. Cleveland, this is not the Cleveland that we used to see. I mean, I expect that Deshaun Watson is going to bring his A game this year. Because if not, I think he's going to be dumped. And he may be dumped before the season's over with, and Cleveland's got to eat several $1 million.
Yeah.
I don't think that the ladies are going to give Deshaun Watson an easy time from any city that he plays in.
No, and Deshaun Watson is not alone, because backing him up is famous Jameis Winston, who will also become...
Amen, Jameis Winston. Oh, my goodness. The crab man, we call him, right?
Yeah, and I actually said, since Deshaun Watson likes massages and famous Jameis likes free crab legs, I wonder if Jameis now, when Deshaun needs a massage after a practice or a workout, I wonder if Jameis is the one that gives him the massage, but instead of touching him, he just brings the crab legs to scratch up and down his back. That's what I wonder right now. But that's what we got right now. Crab legs and massages. Deshaun Watson coming into town, backed up by famous Jameis, who has left the New Orleans Saints for the Cleveland Browns. Jerry Jeudy is with Amari Cooper now, coming from the Denver Broncos in the offseason. So we'll see how the Jaguars go up against Amari Cooper and Jerry Jeudy. And we're also going to see the return of running back Nick Chubb, who's gone through some injury. When he's healthy, he's one of the best out there. But hopefully this season, we'll see a truly healthy Nick Chubb for an entire year, and him with Jerome Ford, like you said, PJ. So this will be an interesting game for sure, with the Jerry Jeudy piece and Nick Chubb coming back, and famous Jameis Winston coming to town is going to be fun as well. Jerry loves my crab leg massage joke that I just had there. Game 3 is going to bring us into the Jaguars on the road again, and it's going to take them to Buffalo. I've already had multiple people ask me if I'm going to go to this game with them. The Jaguars will be at the Bills, and PJ, it's Monday night mother freaking football for the Jaguars. What are your thoughts?
Boy, this is a tough game. Boy, this is really, really, really tough. You know that Josh Allen's going to be throwing all over the place. He's not going to have Chris Kirk to throw to. He's got Marquez Valdez Scantling. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep, I covered him out of he was a South Florida Bull.
Right, he's going to be his main man, and the double tight end of Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. I think those guys are going to be key to Josh Allen. Besides his running ability, I don't know if this backfield is going to be that strong, but
yeah. Well, we're looking at the fact that going into camp, the Bills have about 97 wide receivers. So they have Khalil Shakir, they have Keon Coleman, who they drafted 33rd overall out of FSU. Curtis Samuel comes in, Marcus Valdez Scantling comes in, Chase Claypool, Every receiver is new of the 5 guys I just named, except for Khalil Shakir, who returns onto the team after doing some good things in the playoffs. Once again, folks, this is Monday night mother freaking football. Jaguars at Bills. Guess what? The last time I went to see a Jaguars-Bills game in Buffalo, there was a fight in my end zone, and I was there to watch Leonard Fournette punch helmets with his hands. He's a running back, so that was probably a bad idea. And I also put up a video that went viral on social media of fans booing Jalen Ramsey and screaming at him and him putting his hands up asking them for more. Well, Leonard Fournette and Jalen Ramsey aren't on the Jaguars team in this return to Buffalo, and that's probably a good thing. Rookie wide receiver Keon Coleman, as I mentioned, the first pick of the second round of this year's draft, 33rd overall. We'll see how he's doing by week 3. There's guys on the Buffalo Bills that I covered in college, including Ed Oliver and Matt Milano, and Syracuse defensive line alum Kingsley Jonathan is looking at year 3 in the NFL as an undrafted free agent. He spent part of year 1 with the Buffalo Bills, Chicago Bears, and then Buffalo called him back. He spent all of last season in Buffalo, and we'll see Kingsley Jonathan hopefully back there for that game, which will be a Syracuse reunion for me. In week 4, the Jaguars stay on the road, and they will go to Houston in their first game that the Jaguars will be playing inside of their division of the AFC South, PJ, at Texans. First AFC South game. Your thoughts?
This is not the Texans of the last several years. Last year. This is C.J. Stroud's team. This kid came on, and I enjoyed watching him play every week. He's got poise. He's got a rifle for an arm.
Yeah.
He knows an awful lot about football. He's going to take Houston for the next 10 years. He's got Joe Mixon running the ball. Damian Pierce is going to be running the ball. Andy Beck plays fullback, and I know that he likes to use the fullback a lot. Stephon Diggs, John Mechie, wide receivers. Dalton Schultz is a tight end. Look at Houston is scary, Daniel. Friggin' scary. With Stephon Diggs, even though he's a jerk in there, this may be one of the 3 best teams in football right now.
Yeah. So very interesting here, this game at the Texans. I got some notes here for you. C.J. Stroud has Nico Collins. Stephon Diggs is in town now. We'll see how that works out. And hopefully a return of Tank Dell. God bless to him and his loved ones, and hopefully we get to see him soon. But C.J. Stroud, a ton of weapons, including Joe Mixon, who comes to the backfield for the first time in Houston with the Texans after spending his whole career with the Cincinnati Bengals up to this point. The Texans return the offensive and defensive rookie of the year, the second and third overall picks, respectively, of the 2023 NFL Draft, that being quarterback C.J. Stroud on offense, and a guy that I covered in college, defensive rookie of the year, linebacker Will Anderson Jr. So this is going to be a huge game in Houston. The Jaguars it would behoove them to steal this one away early on, because the Texans, I think, are only going to get better with time, and the Jaguars got to make sure that their window has not closed, because there was a couple seasons where Houston was struggling a bit, and now the Houston Texans, they are very dangerous. They got weapons all over the field, and I think that they are going to be a terror this year. I think they might push the Chiefs, so the Jaguars are going to have to really hunker down on this one, and whatever's happened in the first 3 weeks of the season are going to have to really get this victory, get it early, and get the jump on Houston. Week 5 will see the Jaguars return home, like PJ said, for only the second time early on in the season, and they will face off against the Colts, staying in the AFC South division. Your thoughts?
Unfortunately for us, 2 of the fast-rising teams in this league are both in our division.
Yeah.
And Indy's the other one. You got Anthony Richardson, unfortunately, got hurt last week. We didn't see what he can do. Go Gators, of course.
Yeah.
My man Joe Flacco is backing him up. John Taylor can run for 1,000 yards anytime he wants to. Michael Pittman, wide receiver. Eric Tomlinson, a tight end. And guess who's playing defense for them? Kayvon Bryan, go
Gators.
That's right. Anyway, Indy and Houston are going to be very formidable opponents in our own division.
Yeah. No, this is going to be a really really crucial matchup with the return of Anthony Richardson. Go Gators. I actually had written in my notes, go ... in parentheses to make sure you said go Gators, PJ. So Anthony Richardson, and I sold my Go Gators patch of the Anthony Richardson. I paid about $180 for that card, and I ended up selling it for $220 in cash and $100 in trade value cards, so $320 altogether. He is back after a short rookie season due to injury. God willing, he will have a full season. I think Anthony Richardson cards are on the up and up, and I got a couple of them sent out to PSA to get graded, hopefully coming back PSA 10 out of 10. Wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. had signed a franchise tag, which gave them some time to sign his extension, which it all worked out. 3-year extension, $70 million. $41 million of that is guaranteed. Could be up to $46 million in guaranteed. $41 million guaranteed at signing. He will now be with the team through the 2026-27 season. And talk about Syracuse guys. I talked about Sean Tucker, Kingsley Jonathan. Well, not only the leading tackler on the Colts, not only the leading tackler in the AFC South, but in back-to-back seasons leading the nation for a long period of time. This man is a friggin' monster, and I just saw him at the Syracuse spring game, shook hands with him and talked to him for a bit. Appreciate this dude. He knows it. Syracuse linebacker alum Zaire Franklin. He is a terror to any NFL team, and he's going to try and make it a difficult day in Duval for the Jaguars in Week 5. Week 6 and Week 7, we'll see the Jaguars do something they've only done one other time in history, and it was done last year, when they played 2 games in London instead of 1. The Jaguars will go in Week 6 overseas to face off against the Bears and the number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams, at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, that will be in the United Kingdom there in London. The game will take place at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. PJ, the first overseas game, and it's going to be against the number 1 pick. Your thoughts?
Well, this is a game that the Jaguars not only need to win, but they have to dominate. I mean, we're going to see a good share of good young quarterbacks come through this league, and I don't want to see this kid, Caleb Williams, be comfortable back there. I need Josh and the boys to start kicking ass, taking names, don't take names, and bury him. I mean, he's going to have enough weapons as it is. He's got DeAndre Smith, the running back, Keenan Allen, wide receiver, DJ Moore, wide receiver. These guys are class guys. And he's got Dome Odunze from Washington as a wide receiver, and Cole Clement as a tight end. Now, if this kid starts getting comfortable in all his games and starts going over there, throwing the ball all over the place, we're going to be hurting Gators. Yeah,
it's going to be tough here. Game is going to be over. I love these games because I get up in the morning on a Sunday, and I look at the clock, and I go to get up, and I lay back down, and I put Lily right next to me, and I stay in bed, and I watch this game on a Sunday morning. Jaguars Week 6, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, overseas, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Chicago Bears, number 1 overall pick, Caleb Williams at quarterback out of USC. And number 9 overall pick, wide receiver Rome Odunze out of Washington. This was my original prediction of what Chicago would do with the number 1 and number 9 pick of the 2024 NFL Draft. They also bring in wide receiver Keenan Allen from the Chargers, and they bring in running back DeAndre Swift, who was a Lion drafted to them, then a Philadelphia Eagle last year. So this is going to be a new-look offense for the Chicago Bears. And last year, Jacksonville had made some mistakes in the first few weeks. They went overseas to correct that and won both games. I would suggest no matter what they do in the first 5 weeks, that they take care of their home away from home in London and defeat the Bears. In Week 7, so that's a road game. So the Jaguars have 9 road games this season. 8 of them are true. This is going to be a road game in London, and then a home game that they're giving up, which they've been doing for many years, is they give up 1 home game of the 8 they have. So they'll have 7 games in Jacksonville, and 1 of their home games will be overseas in London. This game is in Week 7. It makes perfect sense for the Jaguars to do what they did last year, which is if you're going to play 2 games overseas, you stay overseas so you don't have to deal with the jet lag, and you play a team that has to deal with the jet lag while you've already gotten comfortable. It worked for them last year against Buffalo, and they're going to hope it works for them this year in their away from home game in Week 7 at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time against the Patriots in Wembley Stadium. So they go from Tottenham to Wembley. Wembley they've spent a ton of time at, and this game will be against the New England Patriots with first-time head coach Gerard Mayo, no more Bill Bellies, and another rookie quarterback, a top 3 pick in Drake May out of North Carolina. Your thoughts, PJ?
Well, this is another game, Daniel, that the Jaguars are going to have to assert themselves at the line of scrimmage. Don't get this kid comfortable. If he's even going to be the starting quarterback, I assume he will. He's got a big arm, and if the guy that's backing him up, Joe Milton, I'm glad I don't have to see him anymore, Tennessee. This kid can throw it 100 yards. But anyway, to get back to the task here, this is a game that got to dominate against a young quarterback and even against a young coach. Jared Mayo, we don't know if he's cut out to be a coach. I mean, he's played, he worked under Bill Belichick for years. I mean, I guess you got to attest to something, but I don't know if he can handle it. And we should know by the time this game comes around. Drake's going to have he's got 2 tight ends he's going to deal with, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper. Both of those guys are tough tight ends. And I look for Drake May to use them as a safety valves every once in a while until he gets used to his wide receivers. Well, I don't have a clue who they are.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting here when we see the Patriots. A lot of non-household names at wide receiver of the last few years here since Tom Brady has left town. And taking a look at who they have right now for their wide receivers, to give you a note here on the New England Patriots, who Drake May will be looking to throw to, or Jacoby Brissett, we'll see. Kendrick Bourne, who's back, Demario Douglas, Jalen Polk, KJ Osborne, who played at the University of Buffalo, then transferred to Miami. I've covered him and interviewed him. Juju Smith-Schuster, Javon Baker, Jalen Rieger, who was an early pick by the Philadelphia Eagles, a little bit of a head-scratcher, and now he's with the New England Patriots. So we'll see who emerges from the wide receiver core, but once again, playing a top 3 quarterback in back-to-back weeks in London, a top 3 drafted quarterback. They play the number 1 overall pick in Week 6 when the Bears and Caleb Williams are there with them in London, and then they'll play Drake May in Week 7. So they're going to get 2 out of the 3 top 3 drafted quarterbacks in the 2024 draft this year in back-to-back weeks. And like I said, no Bill Belichick, so we'll see how this all shakes out. Back-to-back weeks in London for back-to-back seasons. Week 8, we'll have the Green Bay Packers, and my first note on this, all it says is MT. So, Green Bay, Week 8, MT's team, Green Bay, Wisconsin, coming into town. PJ, what are your thoughts on the Jaguars' return home after 2 weeks in London, and they did this last year? 2 weeks in London, come home to a home game instead of a road game, which makes perfect sense. So the Jaguars will be sleeping in their bed for the first time in a couple of weeks, and that's that first time in 3 weeks, I should say, and they're playing Green Bay. What do you got?
Well, Jordan Love, he proved to me last year that he can play the game, and I just didn't think this was possible. I didn't think he was that tough to begin with, but he proved me wrong, and I admit that. He's an excellent young quarterback, another good, strong arm in this league. But the guy that was drafted to help him was Michael Pratt, and he's the one that we like.
Yeah.
He's the one. This kid could be a sleeper. I know if something happens to Jordan, I'm not sure that he can step right in and start throwing it. But anyway, we got A.J. Dillon at running back, Josh Jacobs at running back. 2 of those guys have been around for years. Christian Watson, wide receiver. Romeo Dubes at wide receiver. Tucker Kraft at tight end. There's some good targets out there for Mr. Love to throw at, and I'm hoping he has an off day.
Yeah, we're looking at this Green Bay game, home game for the Jaguars. Like PJ said, in the first 7 weeks, they're only home twice. They gave up one of their home games to London, so in Week 8, they're back home, at home, in actual Jacksonville against Green Bay. And Jordan Love is in his second season as the outright leader of the Green Bay offense. And Aaron Jones is no longer there. He stays in the NFC North, but he goes to the Vikings. And in comes running back Josh Jacobs from the Raiders. So we'll have Josh Jacobs, A.J. Dillon, and they drafted another running back here. So my question is A.J. Dillon going to stay in Green Bay, or will somebody make a play for him as they bring in Marshawn Lloyd out of USC? So this will be an interesting and potentially loaded backfield that Jacksonville has to go up against if they're all there by Week 8. Week 9, we'll see the Jaguars go to Philadelphia. This was a Super Bowl that could have happened back in 2017-18. We could have seen Jacksonville play Philly, and in Week 9, Jacksonville will play Philly in Philly. Your thoughts, PJ?
This is a serious football team right here. I mean, he's proved it over a couple of years. Jalen Hurts is taking hold of this team. He can do anything. He can run. He can pass. He can even throw, I guess. But I like Kenny Pickett backing him up. I don't know if that is going to be a problem there. I don't know if Kenny Pickett thinks he's good enough to play with Jalen Hurts. Let's put it this way. If Jalen gets hurt running the ball, which he shouldn't, Ken Pickett's going to come right in. Saquon Barkley, he's a running back. Remember Will Shipley?
Yep.
Running back from Clemson.
Yep.
I think he makes the team, and I think he helps out at running back here. Devontae Parker can catch anything at wide receiver, and Dallas Goedert is an all-pro tight end. So he's got all the weapons he needs, period.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Eagles, which we know that they did a running back by committee back in the day when people thought it was crazy. They had 3 different running backs. They had Buckhalter, Westbrook, and Staley all at the same time. Now they have Quando coming into town from the New York Giants, staying in the NFC East, going up against his rival. Gainwell is there as well. I covered Kenneth Gainwell in college. And Will Shipley, I also covered him in college. So we'll see how this all goes together in the grand scheme of things. This is going to be a Sunday night football game, another primetime game. In the first 9 weeks, Jaguars will have Monday night football and Sunday night football. They'll both be on the road, though. Neither one of them is going to be in Jacksonville. Sunday night football, 8:20 p.m. Eastern time at Philadelphia on NBC. Doug Peterson is going up against his team that he led to the Super Bowl with the win over the Patriots. Of course, we know Jalen Hurts is in town. I mentioned Saquon Barkley. And this could have been the 2017-2018 Super Bowl matchup, but Doug Peterson, ironically, would have been on the other side if this was the case. So, and back in 2017-18, when I was in Foxborough, if the Jaguars had defeated the Patriots, they would have gone up against Philadelphia, and they would have gone up against their future head coach, Doug Peterson. So, little interesting note there. Week 10 takes the Jaguars back home and back to an NFC North matchup when they face off against the Vikings, who have also changed their quarterbacks. The Jaguars playing up against quarterbacks that are either rookies or in their second year this season is uncanny. They got a ton of them. They got the C.J. Strouds, the Anthony Richardsons, the Caleb Williams, the Drake Mays, and now they have the J.J. McCarthy potentially in Week 10, PJ. What do you got?
Well, I think that Sam Donald starts out as the quarterback with J.J. McCarthy, probably giving him a lot of competition. But again, I think J.J. will tell you that the game is a lot faster than he thought when he was at Michigan. Aaron Jones is a running back, used to be for Green Bay. Neil Henry is a wide receiver. Justin Jefferson, wide receiver. And all-world tight end, T.J. Hawkinson, will probably be Sam Donald's all-time favorite receiver. So this is a game that the Jaguars need to win again because it's Sam Donald's a good quarterback, but he's not a legendary quarterback. I mean, he's useful, of course, and he'll be there until J.J. McCarthy can take over. But this is a game that we have to win up front and rattle these kids.
Yeah, this is a must-win for Jacksonville. You don't want to. I mean, all the games are must-wins, but this is one of those games where if you lose it, it could take some wind out of the sails here. You got to take care of this one as Minnesota tries to figure things out at their quarterback situation. Of course, we are on the prowl here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of the Heritage Hill Studios, breaking down the entire Jacksonville Jaguars schedule for 2024-25 from the preseason to the end of the regular season. Vikings 10th overall pick, J.J. McCarthy. I had the Vikings taking J.J. if they were at 11, if they were at 10, if they were at 4, wherever they were. I had them taking J.J. out of Michigan. They did exactly that. As PJ and I mentioned, Aaron Jones is in the NFC North, leaving Green Bay for Minnesota. Yet another, there's a bunch of players that are on different teams this year, but within their same division. So they're going to see their old team twice. The Vikings could have been the other matchup that the Jaguars saw in that Super Bowl. It was going to be Philly or Minnesota if Jacksonville had defeated the Patriots, and now they get to play them in back-to-back weeks, which is kind of funny here, looking back on the history of the 2017-18 season and what could have been, and now playing both of these teams back-to-back that they could have played in the Super Bowl there in 2017-18. Big-time wide receivers for J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold, or whoever's throwing them the ball. Jordan Addison, who I covered in college at Pitt before he transferred to USC through the transfer portal. And, of course, big man Justin Jefferson and tight end TJ Hawkinson. That mofo is a true player here. He was a good one with the Detroit Lions. And when I say mofo, I mean that with love. PJ and I say mofo when we're saying good things. We say they're nasty mofos. And TJ Hawkinson is a nasty mofo, and he probably would agree on that. He's only gotten better in Minnesota, but will he be better without Kirk Cousins? That question mark is up in the air. And guess what? They're going to keep playing the NFC North in Week 11 when they head to Detroit to face off against those Lions, PJ. The battle for the jungle. Lion versus Jaguar. Oh, my. What do you got?
I got this penciled in as a loss, Daniel. I just don't think we can compete with these guys. I saw enough last year of Jeff Goff to... I don't want to see him again, but I'm going to have to see him again. We're going to have to see him in this game. You got Justin Jackson, a running back, another David Montgomery, another running back, Amari St. Brown, the wide receiver, and you got two big tight ends, Sam Laporta, who we used an awful lot last year, and Parker Hess. And incomparable, I wish we had incomparable Aiden Hutchinson, a defensive end. Nothing against Javon Walker. I think he's a good player. That's who we should have selected first. Aiden Hutchinson should have been first.
Yeah, you and I talked about how we wanted Aiden Hutchinson in Jacksonville. No offense to Trayvon Walker at all. And, Aiden's doing a tremendous job. Trayvon's doing some good things as well. Hindsight 2020, Aiden Hutchinson has had a better start to his career, being drafted number 2 overall after Jacksonville took Trayvon Walker in the 2022 NFL Draft. This matchup at the Lions, as I mentioned before, quarterback Jared Goff got an extension here in the offseason, 4 years, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. The $53 million annually makes him second only to Joe Burrow's $55 million annually, which means that Goff and Burrow, who have never won a Super Bowl, either one of them, are now making more money than Pat Mahomes annually, whose contract was considered huge when he got $50 million a year on average. He's won 3 Super Bowls. Goff and Burrow together have never won any, but they're getting paid more money annually than a guy who's helped building a dynasty in Kansas City and Pat Mahomes. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield was great last year. A wonderful tandem for Detroit. It looks like that coming back is going to be a danger to a bunch of teams out there. And this is going to be the third season third time's the charm for Jameson Williams, potentially. Jameson Williams, after being a rookie a few years ago, this is his third season in the NFL, and we're looking to see if this is the charm. He wasn't available for week 1 of year 1 in the NFL because he was hurt. Then he wasn't available week 1 of year 2 in the NFL because he was suspended. So can Jameson Williams play in the first game of the season? This is going to be the 11th game of the season, but my question when it comes to Detroit is, will Jameson Williams be on the field in week 1 for the first time in 3 years? After being injured and then being suspended, will he actually play the first game of the season? I'll be watching that. And will Dan Campbell go for 2 at any point against Jacksonville? We know Dan Campbell likes to roll the dice a lot. Will he go for 2 against the Jaguars? That's got to be a bet that PJ and I are going to have to do and have some fun with. I'm sure Vegas will have a line on if he goes for 2, how many times he goes for 2, because Dan Campbell loves to roll the dice. So will he go for 2 is what I got written here in my notes as one of the questions. In Week 12, the Jaguars will get a break. They will spend 11 straight weeks, including 2 weeks on the road in London, before they get a break, PJ. What are your thoughts on that? Like or dislike the fact that bye weeks come at any point in the season? I think they come after the first 3 or 4 weeks, so week 4, week 5, whatever. Your bye week could be anywhere. Jacksonville doesn't get a break until 11 straight games. Your thoughts?
Well, I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but they don't need to be traipsing all over the country, all over the world to play football. I mean, I'd like for them to stay here, but Shad Khan's got his fingers in everywhere, and he seems to think that he can do something. He'd do some good if he's got a couple games in London. Well, okay, that's no here or there, but what I think, or what I want to comment on before, is that we're going to be coming up with Houston. Now, what I want to see is some things shake down before we play Houston again. And I want to know if Stephon Diggs is either going to outlive his welcome or they throw him out already.
Yeah, that's going to be a big question mark week after the Week 12 bye for the Jaguars here in our On the Prowl coverage of Jacksonville of many years, talking about the Jaguars 2024-25 entire schedule preseason of Week 18 with Papa Joe and myself, Dan Tortora, inside of the Heritage Hill studios here on Wake Up Call. Week 13 will be round 2 against the Texans. This is going to be at home, so we already made the notes about Houston. But, yeah, big question. Stephon Diggs by Week 13, is he going to be a nightmare? Is he going to be good? Is he going to be good for a season? Is he going to be good for a couple games? Or is this going to be a big mistake? Houston is dangerous. They already have a bunch of weapons. They don't need Stephon Diggs. I don't know why you'd bring in a potential virus to your team, but it's their choice. Buffalo, think about what Buffalo did. Buffalo has a $31 million cap hit, and they got almost nothing in return. They got a second-round pick next year. They got nothing this year. They gave up a couple picks, plus they're giving up $31 million. So obviously, they got to a point with Stephon where it was like, do whatever you need to do to get him out of here. We'll even pay to get him out of here, which they literally did. When the people joke about, I'll pay to have you leave, I'll pay to get you out of my house, I'll pay to get you out of my arena, they paid to have him leave. This was a ridiculous move by Buffalo, which only means to me that Stephon Diggs must have done one more thing that broke the camel's back, or the Buffalo's back in this instance, and he's with the Houston Texans now. We'll see what it looks like in Week 13. That's going to be round number 2. In Week 14, the Jaguars will play their third team in the AFC South division, and for the first time this season, they'll take on Tennessee. So they won't have to play Tennessee the first 13 weeks, but they're in Tennessee in Week 14, and Will Levis looks like he's going to be the quarterback. What do you got, PJ?
Well, this is a bittersweet team for me. I was a big fan of Derrick Henry. I just love the way he runs. And, of course, Mike Vrabel is just a class guy. I don't know what happened over there, but I think they made a serious mistake when they didn't sign Henry for another couple of years at least and keep Mike Vrabel as coach. But, again, I'm just a pundit, and they got Will Levis as a quarterback. Mason Rudolph from the Pittsburgh or Philadelphia. No, Pittsburgh. No, Philly. Mason Rudolph from Philly.
Pittsburgh. It's Pittsburgh.
Tony Pollard's a running back. DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley can catch anything out there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for us to really put some pressure on Mr. Levis like we did last year, and hopefully we can prevail here.
Yeah, this game is definitely big because Tennessee, we're going to see where they're at. And Jacksonville not playing them until Week 14 gives them some time to get comfortable. Will Levis is going to be the offensive general, it looks like, in year 2 of his time in the NFL. This will be the first year that he starts out the season as the starter. Mason Rudolph brought in from Pittsburgh, and Malik Willis is still there, who was drafted by Tennessee a couple of years ago. Tajay Spears, who I covered at Tulane, who went up against the likes of Caleb Williams and USC in that awesome instant classic at the Cowboys Stadium in Arlington, Texas. And Tajay Spears is back for year 2, and he is joined by Tony Pollard, who comes over from the Dallas Cowboys. No Derrick Henry, as PJ made mention of. And how about this? the Jaguars are going to have to, for the first time ever, go up against Calvin Ridley since he was on the team, as Calvin Ridley signed a 4-year off-season deal to join the Tennessee Titans. So the Jaguars will go up against a guy who I don't think they use correctly, and he is going to be a Titan with DeAndre Hopkins and Treylon Burks. So we'll see how Calvin Ridley does and if Tennessee can figure out how to get him the ball, because Jacksonville and their offensive coordinator, Press Taylor, I don't think had enough opportunity for Calvin Ridley, and now he is a Tennessee Titan, and the Jaguars will have to go up against Agent Zero and see how he does on another team against them. Week 15 will bring the Jaguars back to Jacksonville, and this game will be against the Jets. In the last 4 weeks of the season, the Jaguars will play 2 games at home and 2 on the road. This first one at home, Week 15 against the Jets. PJ, what do you got?
Well, I think we'll understand how Aaron Rodgers feels by the time this game rolls around, because he's probably going to get the heck beat out of him for the early part of the season. I don't look for him to be successful there. I don't know why he's even doing it at 40 years old. But he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I mean, he can possibly carry this team to 8, maybe 9 wins. But other than that, he's got Breece Allen as a running back, Alan Lazard is buddy from wide receiver, Lance McCutcheon running wide receiver. I don't know who Aaron's going to throw to, and I don't know who's going to protect him. So by the time he comes to see us, we'll get a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and Aaron Rodgers, interesting here, has type 1 diabetes and has had it since age 13. So God bless to him and being okay. My little sister Franny found out that she has it and could have been in a coma if not getting. They told her she had 2 weeks or she would have been in a coma. Her levels were extremely high and she didn't know what was going on with her, as it was affecting her vision. And now she has the opportunity to play lacrosse, and she did that in the postseason in the NCAA tournament over this past weekend in Syracuse, New York, and got a victory there. So congrats to my little sister Franny. Week 15 to the New York, and obviously my nephew and my godson Noah has type 1 diabetes. My dad has type 2. So God bless to everybody out there, and let's find a cure. The Jets come into town, and Aaron Rodgers, we'll see. Does Aaron Rodgers last? Can he be out? I mean, I hope he does. At 40 years old, he spent about 5 minutes out there. I said, whatever happens this year, last year they were in prime time on September 11th. This year they're going to be in prime time on September 9th. He ran out carrying the United States flag. All I ask this year is that they don't do the same thing twice. So maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't bring the flag out this year, and maybe he's not the first guy out of the tunnel. Let's try to do things a little bit differently and just see how things go here. And Jerry's type 2 diabetes as well. So, Jerry, I hope that you do well and they find a cure for you as well. God bless you, Jerry. So, Aaron Rodgers coming out here. Will we see him in Duval is the big question mark. And Jordan Travis, I think the quarterback of the future, getting drafted in the 5th round, 171 overall, as the Jets traded up to get him in this year's draft out of Florida State. Sauce Gardner, who I covered in college, he comes into town in Jacksonville, coming from the Cincinnati Bearcats, and I also covered defensive lineman Jermaine Johnson II, who comes from FSU. So I'll be watching those guys closely. I also accurately predicted the Jets' first 4 picks of that draft, which included Sauce Gardner and Jermaine Johnson II. Sauce at 4 overall, and they traded back into the first round to get Jermaine Johnson. The question for me is, how many points will the Jets defense allow? The team leaned on their defense last year with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and this game will be played on December 15th, which is my G-Mama's birthday, so I'm excited to celebrate that in Saxonville. Week 16 has the Jaguars going to Las Vegas to go and play inside of a spaceship when they play the Las Vegas Raiders. So, PJ, what do you have for this game?
Raiders, yes. Well, they got Ian O'Connell as quarterback.
Yep.
Picked up our buddy, Gardner Minshew. He may be a better quarterback than Nate McConnell. I don't know how they're going to play this. They got incomparable Devontae Adams out there catching anything. Jacoby Myers. They brought in Brock Myers from Georgia as the number 1 tight end in the country, and I want to see this work out. I think whoever's going to be comfortable with Brock Myers is probably going to be the quarterback. if it's with Aiden O'Connell, Brock Bowers is going to be a big part of this offense, period. And they got on defense, they got Max Crosby, who doesn't seem to age every year I see him. He got more tattoos, but he's a killer on defense. So this will be a fun game to watch at Las Vegas. I don't know. We should know our status by then if we're a playoff team or even a division-winning team.
Yeah.
So in any event, it'll be a fun game to watch.
Yeah, we got the game week 16 at the Raiders. This is the only 4:25 p.m. start time for the Jaguars this season as we head into the season. So the only midday Sunday game that they have on the schedule. Aiden O'Connell, I told you when he played up against Syracuse in the Dome that he would be a quarterback in the NFL. He goes into year 2 as the starter. Gardner Minshew signed on a 2-year contract. Gardner Minshew, in my opinion, one of the best backups in the nation after helping the Colts to the brink of going to the postseason, and he was an Eagle before that after leaving Jacksonville. In the 2023 draft, the Raiders selected tight end Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame. In the 2024 NFL draft, they selected tight end Brock Bowers out of Georgia. So they got 2 really strong tight ends. We'll see what that looks like. And for the first time, they do not have Josh Jacobs in town. And so the Raiders' backfield is going to look different here, folks. And the Las Vegas Raiders, they were looking at their backfield right now and what this is like without Jacobs. Zamir White, who I covered in college, he's there. So is Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah. Look for Zamir White to have the majority of the carries and see if he can be the dominant back out of where he comes from, which is Georgia. Zamir White here, what this is going to look like for him. And can he be the guy? This is a guy that I think maybe people wrote off, and now he has a chance to be a dominant back in the NFL. Week 17 and 18 are going to be rematch time here, as the Jaguars will have the Titans at home in Week 17 and the Colts on the road in Week 18. So round 2 with the Titans means that the Jaguars will see Tennessee twice in exactly 3 weeks' time, PJ. What do you got for this one?
Well, we should know a lot. We should know if we rattled Levis enough. Josh Allen can get in the backfield a little bit more. I don't know. I'm hoping that we can stretch the field a lot. We got some new wide receivers. I mean, this kid Thomas is supposed to be a real killer.
Yeah.
Not only fast, but he's very tall. So I'm looking as the season progresses. How are we going to use Brian Thomas, and especially against Tennessee, then come right back a couple of weeks later and see if they can stick him with him again. So there's a lot to be talked about with Tennessee, even in a couple of weeks before we see him again.
Yeah, so Tennessee 2 times in 3 weeks, Jaguars round 2 there. And in Week 18, the Jaguars will be on the road. So they start the season on the road, and they end the season on the road. The Jaguars will be at Indianapolis in Week 18. That time is to be determined. Week 18's times are always up in the air. And this is the only divisional game that the Jaguars will play this season where the second meeting is on the road. So think about that. In the AFC South, they have Tennessee, Houston, and Indy. They play they play Houston on the road, then at home. They play Tennessee on the road, and then at home. This is the only divisional matchup for the Jaguars where the second game is going to be on the road this season. So the Colts at home and then on the road. PJ, what are your thoughts on this? And what are your thoughts on Jacksonville having to start on the road and end on the road?
That sucks, too. It all has to do with that London stuff. But anyway, to get to the game, we should know after playing Indy mid-season, and I think it's the beginning of October, we should know how good Anthony Richardson is playing, or in fact, if he got hurt again. So this is a big game. This could be a really big game for us, mainly because Indianapolis, along with Houston, frankly, are going to be favored more than we are in our own division. I don't get that, but these two young guys, Stroud and Richardson, could carry this division along with Trevor Lawrence. We haven't even mentioned him today. And here he is, one of the best quarterbacks in college football, and we can't even give him a mention because there's so many good young players coming in. Well, we should know how we stack up against Anthony Richardson when we play him on October 6th. That'll give us a good idea for this game.
Yeah, playing the Colts in week 5 and then not again until week 18. We'll see what the team looks like then, and hopefully Anthony Richardson gets a full season in for that. With that being said, PJ and I bringing you through the entire Jacksonville Jaguars schedule on the prowl here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And PJ, as always, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Okay, check you later. Bye-bye.
Take care. That coming from Papa Joe here where sports meets life inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. We're going to take our final step aside and wrap up the show right after this. Central New Yorkers, you can now enjoy the taste of Heritage Hill award-winning craft beers, seltzers, and a full bar at 3 locations. Spend your weekends at their beautiful location in Pompey with its amazing views, sunsets, family, and pet-friendly facilities, as well as extensive private event areas. Get their taps, tonics, and tastes in their brand new North Syracuse location at Sweetheart Corner in North Syracuse, New York. When flying in and out of Syracuse Hancock International Airport, make sure to visit their Palladino Farms location. At Heritage Hill, they believe in supporting our community and are excited to now meet you where you're at and where you're going with their local farm-raised tastes. Find out more information at heritagehillbrewery.com.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, located for you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is your one-stop sports and trading card shop. Head off to GG Cards and Breaks 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and on Sundays from 10 to 5. You will find soccer, hockey, baseball, basketball, football, all sport, AEW, UFC, and more, including Disney Lorcana and Pokemon while supplies last. They have packs, they have boxes, they have graded cards, they have singles, and those display cases are changing all the time, and they just brought in a ton of PSA graded cards, so you don't want to miss out on that. They have a new arrivals box. They have a box full of graded cards. You don't want to miss a moment. If you go into GG Cards and Breaks today, you might miss something tomorrow. So you got to keep going back in and seeing what they have, and their service is incredible. Big time shout out to Josh, Anthony, and the entire crew over at GG Cards and Breaks. Many thanks to Alex and Joel and everybody over there, and we appreciate the service so very much. And the fact that they love cards themselves. They collect sports cards. They collect trading cards. They know about Pokemon. They know about Disney Lorcana. And, of course, they know about all of the sports out there that they carry. And the packs and the boxes, I have found great stuff there with them. I love doing our box breaks, which you can check out on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. There's a playlist of our box breaks, so make sure you check those out. Brought to you by GG Cards and Breaks, right there in our community, right off of Teal Ave on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. Experience the difference at GG Cards and Breaks. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, we have had a very eventful broadcast today. So many things going on the show. Inside of the Heritage Hill Studios, we have brought you, with Papa Joe, Preakness coverage on what's coming up this weekend with currently 8 horses. It was 9. Now it's 8. God willing, they'll all go out there. I'm rooting for Mystic Dan because, well, come on now. And then Major League Baseball, speaking on that and the current standings and what's going on. Then we talked about the Jaguars stadium and the agreement with the city of Jacksonville, which now goes to the council members. They need a majority of the 19 members to say yes. Then, and that's going to be voted on in late June. Then we go to October, where at least 24 of the 32 NFL franchises have to say yes to the plan. $1.4 billion plan for Jacksonville's new stadium of the future. And then we just, on the prowl, broke down the entire Jacksonville Jaguars 2024-25 schedule, starting with the preseason all the way through Week 18, all inside of the Heritage Hill Studios. I want to thank you for being here with us today and every Monday through Friday on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and on wakeupcalldt.podbean.com. Once the shows go live, they jump into the archive, and you can check out Wake Up Call on Amazon Music, Audible, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, and YouTube, among others. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. A big time thanks to our incredible partners in Central and Upstate New York. Please make sure you go and visit them, and thank you to everybody that has trusted our partners and gone to see them when you see their logo show up on wakeupcalldt.com or on any one of our broadcasts. You've trusted us for years, and I appreciate that very much, and I know that they do as well. We don't just work with businesses. We work with businesses that we trust and businesses that we support, businesses that I go to, and businesses that are run by people that I truly appreciate and respect. Our exclusive studio partner, Heritage Hill Brewhouse in Pompey and Heritage Hill North in North Syracuse, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, GG Cards and Breaks, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero, and Chick-fil-A Clay. Prayers continue for Jim Rusikowski. I love you, brother. Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Pizza Man, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, Great Lakes Honda City, and Mother's Cupboard. Of course, we are the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Dolphins here on Wednesdays during Dolphin time on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And a big time thanks to Jerry here, who said, good show always. Let's go Celtics. He sent us out here. You'll find the Dolphins Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern time during Dolphin time, AD and DT, the first and third Wednesday of each month, with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. And of course, the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, as well as future Dolphins alumni and administration. You can find all this content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course, find our Lemoyne playlist, which now includes our conversation with Arizona Officer Selection Officer of the United States Marine Corps, Captain Juarez. So make sure you check out that very unique conversation with him and Adam Zakowski, the Lemoyne Dolphins men's and women's swimming and diving head coach. You can also find the Dolphins by swimming over to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to LemoyneDolphins.com, and you know it. Fins up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You'll find the Bobcats in what we call Bobcat Buzz, a spotlight unlike any other they've ever experienced and you've ever seen or heard. With men's and women's basketball, men's and women's soccer, baseball, and esports, you don't want to miss these truly in-depth conversations, including what we just had with the director for Syracuse campuses, Mary Hawkins, as well as our double special with the baseball team at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. 2 campuses for you, one on James Street in Syracuse and the other right off of Route 57 in Liverpool, right across the street from Avicoli, so you know you'll be eating good and getting a great education. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats can be found by subscribing and hitting the notification bell on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Check out our BSC Syracuse playlist for the Bobcats. And, of course, you could find them on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com and go Bobcats. The Binghamton University Bearcats are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find the Bearcats every Tuesday in what we call Bearcat Time, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on Wake Up Call. And, of course, those specials running monthly are Moments with Marshall, featuring Binghamton University Athletics Director Gene Marshall, and the Bearcat Break Room, where we spend some time with student-athletes, coaches, and administration. The incredible stories have been told here in just a couple months' time. You don't want to miss a moment of it. We have under-promised and over-delivered from the beginning with way more specials than we had promised you for the Bearcat Break Room. Make sure you check all the Binghamton University content out on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click subscribe, hit the notification bell, and of course you can find the Binghamton playlist on our YouTube channel as well. You can find the Bearcats on wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and underneath the exclusive partners tab on wakeupcalldt.com. For more information, go to bubearcats.com and go Bearcats. With that being said, from the Heritage Hill Studios, we truly went on the prowl, giving you a breakdown of the entire Jacksonville Jaguars schedule, of course talking the Preakness, Major League Baseball, and about the $1.4 billion stadium of the future for the Jaguars to stay in Jacksonville for another 30-year lease after the current one is up in 2029, which means they'll be in Jacksonville, it looks like, until 2059 at the very least. From the Heritage Hill Studios, we'll be back here tomorrow, God willing. Heritage Hill, go and visit them in Pompey at the Brew House, and go and visit Heritage Hill North at Sweetheart Corner on 628 South Main Street in Syracuse, New York. Facebook at Wake Up Call DT. X at Call DT, Instagram at wakeupcall_DT. Ask your Alexa and Google Home device to play the latest episode of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and they'll do that as well. Vote in all of our polls, including the 3 we just put up on X at Call DT. Make sure to click subscribe or follow when you're on X. I think it's follow still, so go there and do that at Call DT, CALLDT on X, the former Twitter, and vote in our polls that we have up right now. And we look forward to talking with you soon. God bless.